Hey, Luminary, we made it. We are at the halfway point of 2024, and I'm really looking forward to this beautiful June solstice and enjoying all of this Jupiter in Gemini feels. So, if you want to listen ahead, what's coming up and what's in store for you as a change maker and leader, stay tuned. Before we dive in, if you want to be notified whenever a new video drops, hit that subscribe button. If you already have, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for supporting this channel, Star Powered with Leslie Tagorda. That's me. Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. All right, my friends, hello, and welcome to June's StarCast. There's so much going on in my heart at this time. Thankfully, the cosmos is a little bit quiet, a lot less turbulent than it has been earlier this year. If you've been listening for a while and listening to the stories on social media or my email newsletter, you might have heard that I've been promoting with a really good Gemini friend of mine, Asha Frost. She's an international best-selling author and speaker and indigenous medicine woman of the Ojibwe tradition. Well, we just closed the doors to our upcoming 4-week experience called Roar. I'm sharing that because I'm really excited because Asha and I decided to do this experience in a very, very different way according to both our energies. You know, it's so interesting that Asha lives in Canada, I live in the United States. Asha is Ojibwe, and she's this amazing author and storyteller. And I'm here in the States, in San Francisco, and I love astrology. But we just have all of this just kismet energy. We both have our sun Jupiter conjunct in the ninth house. We're both human design projectors with a 2-4 line. So we're both like opportunists, but hermits. Like we love socializing, but like need a lot of alone time. And we both have connections to our Jewish heritages. Asha's husband is Jewish, and I come from a Jewish background. I'm half Jewish, and I've said that before, and I go back and forth whether or not how much I like to talk about it, just because of like the rise of anti-Semitism. But earlier today, we were kind of making our plan for our call, our upcoming Roar project, which is definitely more of an experience than a teaching or coursework, or something that has like hard like outcomes that I want to share and teach with you. This is really more about activating and initiating and finding that softness and courage to speak up to what matters most, because both Ash and I are like both very sensitive souls, and it's really hard to share your wisdom online on social media or here on a podcast or YouTube, and it may look like we have it all figured out because we've kind of flexed our muscles, but still being super super sensitive. It's really hard when people maybe critique what we want to say or get mad at what we say because they don't agree with us. We wanted to share this our own journey and our own experience, because it's not that we are just completely brave and we're just like saying all these things. Like, no, these things still kind of sting when we speak up. And so as we were kind of talking about our plan of action for our 4 weeks together, harnessing star medicine with this Jupiter and Gemini energy culminating on the solstice, we were sharing our experiences about talking about holding space as having connection to the Jewish identity, and just like the atrocities that are happening in Palestine right now. And it really kind of like brought up some of these memories. And like, if I'm teaching other people, or if I'm sharing my experience of how I learned how to find my voice, I really notice how over the last few years I've kind of silenced myself because I've been afraid to speak up. Because it seems like when I do speak up, and this is what Asha and I were talking about earlier, it's like when I do speak up about my beliefs or my opinions or my experiences, there's always somebody who's gonna be pissed off. There's always gonna be somebody that like doesn't hear things the way that I'm saying them or misinterprets them or, or says I'm wrong or says I'm not good enough. There's always gonna be somebody who does that, right? And so I know this is about the June forecast. I will talk about the June forecast, but I just really have to get this off my heart and out of my mouth right now. So, thinking back to October, I had released a podcast episode right at that Libra solar eclipse. This is episode, I think, 56 or something like that. And this was released on October 11th, 2023. And October 11th, 2023 was a few days after the initial attack that sparked this terrible war between that Israel is just like totally pounding on Hamas. But this initial attack was by Hamas on Israel. And during this podcast, I spoke about my feelings. Now, I was absolutely careful to choose my words, and I wanted to be as neutral as possible because I didn't have all the facts of this like clash between cultures that I've endured for decades, if not like hundreds of years. I was careful to choose my words as someone who identifies both as someone from a colonized Filipino identity as well as a Jewish identity. Now, I have zero relationships or ties to either Israel or Palestine. I don't have family in Israel. I don't know anything what it is to be an Israeli, and I don't know anything what it is to be Palestinian. I'd never been to the Middle East. I don't know anything that's really going on there, but except for what that I saw in the news. I was horrified, right, by those attacks on civilians and the rapes and the tortures and the hostages that Hamas did on the civilians of Israel. Now, in my podcast, I questioned because I needed to understand and try to I wanted to understand, why would Hamas do this? Why would they attack what the people that were living on this border, the civilians living on this border? Why would they do just like these cruel atrocities and bring in all of these hostages? Now, this questioning led me to inquire how Palestinians must feel after being squeezed into smaller and smaller portions of land, having their movements controlled at the borders, having all the oppression and the control that they suffer. I was just trying to understand how Palestinians might feel that would provoke Hamas, which is separate from Palestinians. Obviously, Hamas is the organization, the Palestinians are the civilians that live there. I was trying to understand, why would Hamas do this? Now, I was absolutely not condoning their behavior. I was simply asking why they might do this, to understand, to empathize, to see how they might feel. Now, as soon as that podcast launched with me expressing my concern, my questioning, my trying to understand, I received emails. Boy, did I receive emails. And you know who I received emails from? Enraged white Jewish women who interpreted what I had to say as condoning Palestinians and the Hamas for what they did. Now, they said, how dare I say what I said? Aren't I fearful for my life? Aren't I fearful for my son's life? What about all the hostages and people and tortured and raped? And you know what? I shut down. I started to doubt myself. Did I know enough? Who was I to speak up about this? And who am I to speak up about this? Now, fast forward 7 months to today, I never imagined how this war would continue to rage. I could never imagine just the destruction that Israel has then put on the Palestinian people. I have no idea I had no idea at that time that we could have a loss of life up for the Palestinians, civilians, children, 50% children, that over 35,000 people at the time that I'm recording this right now on May 30th have lost their lives. Now, there's a trend on social media to speak up, that if you don't speak up, you are condoning Israel's attack. So if I do speak up, I'm condoning the Hamas. If I don't speak up, I'm condoning Israel. I fucking hate both sides, what they're doing. Hamas, Israel, like, I don't know, right? Now, what I do know is I hate what Israel, the government of Israel, is currently doing to the Palestinian people, to the children, to the communities, to the culture, to the land. It's absolutely a land grab. I believe that Netanyahu is as greedy, as selfish, as power hungry as the orange Cheeto is in the United States. Now, you can disagree with me. I don't give a fuck. Excuse my language, because I'm pissed, right? I have opinions. I am sad. I am angry. And just because I'm not advertising ceasefire, ceasefire, that doesn't mean that I don't hold these really strong emotions and opinions. But do my opinions really truly matter? I am an astrologer, okay? Now, this is a story that is as old as time. Power, oppression, resources, land, all disguised as a belief of God. Now, this is not the people that are doing this. The Jewish people, the Palestinian people are looking for peace. There's Jewish people that absolutely hate what Netanyahu is doing. There are Palestinian people that are wanting to make peace. There are Jewish people that are wanting to make peace. Everybody wants to make peace. And it's the institutions and the imperialist colonial governments that are doing this. The United States has their hands in this blood too. And no matter what I say, I'm not going to change things. I'm not going to win, because I'm not going to be able to please everyone. I know that if there's somebody right now who's absolutely pissed off at what I have to say, and you know what? Who am I? I am an astrologer. Some people will say I have influence, but no matter what I say, I'm not going to change any sides. My body, my soul, my existence is both and. I embody both sides, colonizer and colonized. Yeah, I'm a colonizer. I'm a settler. I live in San Francisco. I'm privileged and oppressed. I am I am healthy. I am blessed. I am so lucky to live in a mostly safe space and place, but I'm still oppressed. I am a person that is other size. I'm brown. I'm middle aged. I am a woman. I have white hair. I'm powerful as well as powerless. I am white and brown. I am Jewish and non Jew. I hold all of this multiplicity. I do believe in ceasefire. I do believe that the Israeli government has taken this way too far. And I do believe that we do not hear enough of the torture and the rape that Hamas has done. I believe in it all. I do believe that we do not hear enough of the slaughter and the repercussions that the people of Palestine will suffer for the next 100 years because of today's starvation and stealing of resources and land. I'm speaking up now here on my platform, but what does it matter? Whose opinion am I going to change? Will I be able to change the minds and hearts of people that hold the triggers, that hold access to the bombs, that have the power? Now, there are people on social media that are asking, how do you go on with life and business as usual? And you know what? I'm not going on with life and business as usual. There's nothing usual about the time that we live in. But I am running my life, my work, and my business in the way that I know how and in the power that I have. And that power I have is kindness, curiosity, bridge building, understanding, and multiplicity. I wish that my saying ceasefire would enable the world to drop all their weapons. I wish that the millions of us that want peace could say ceasefire, could say all eyes on Rafah, and that would change things. Unfortunately, it won't. The only way we can change things is to change ourselves. It's to vote in our elections. You choose your leaders. Even if you think it's a little election like your neighborhood election or your city election, vote. Choose your leaders with your values. Community organize, build, do beautiful things for your neighbors in your neighborhood. Vote with your dollar. Buy from organizations and businesses that don't support this war nor make profits from weapons. Okay. If you have your retirement funds, your investments, know what the fuck you're investing in. Okay. You will be surprised. Be kind and create understanding. Do not rush off and just think you're going to be right and tell someone that they are wrong. Try to understand others' perspectives. And you may not agree. They may not agree. And that's okay. You do not have to. It is better to do the right thing than be right. Ceasefire. Now, there. Have I said it? Have I changed anything in the world? I know I have changed in my heart. I will speak up and not give a fuck who is going to tell me, excuse my language. I know that this is mostly a clean podcast and channel, but you don't agree with me, you think I'm wrong, keep it to yourself, all right? Thank you. Okay, now to the June forecast. Let's shift gears a little bit. Because actually, I am angry, but there's so much goodness to have in the world. And if we can find that goodness, empower your voice, speak up, and do not be afraid to share your value and your opinions. I know I'm going to turn people off, and with my June forecast, I'm going to probably turn even more people off. And you know what? They are not my people. Okay. So let's welcome in the energy of June. The theme that I've called June is empower your voice. The vibe and energy of June is stirring and activating your inner dialogue, your inner power, your inner security, your sense of belonging, your sense of shared values and sharing stories to call in your people and your opportunities. So, June, here we go. Now, June, in the United States, it is Pride Month. Happy Pride. It's a time to celebrate our LGBTQIA plus lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, and more kin of all sexual identities. Indeed, they are kin, they are family, they are community, they are friends and loved ones. I love that the rainbow is a symbol of pride, reflecting the spectrum of love. Life would be so boring if we could only see in binary black and white. Now, you know that I grew up in Hawaii, and Hawaii is full of the AAPI cultures, Asian American and Pacific Islander cultures. And in these cultures, there is such a strong tradition of accepting and having people just in everyday life that embody our different LGBTQIA plus identities. In the Hawaiian and Filipino cultures, there's this tradition of the mahu. The mahu embodied the two-spirit people, which are so, accepted across so many indigenous cultures. They were part of everyday life. Mahu might be men that lived in the way of women, or women that lived in the way of men. Maybe they were trans and cross-dressed. Maybe they weren't. And in old times, The Mahu, the people that embodied Two Spirit, were spiritual teachers and healers. Now, I clearly identify as a cis straight woman, and yet my earliest and my current closest friends identify as gay. I have always felt my most self and my most accepted in my friends' company. I can remember back when I was like in kindergarten, my one of my best friends was this guy Ronald, and we would play, we'd play in the sandbox and we would build Lego together and we would play with dolls, and like he was just so fun and we just got along so well. And I didn't know what gay was back when I was in kindergarten. And I look back on that, I was like, oh yeah, he was definitely gay. Of course, no wonder I loved him. And I love that now. So my closest gay friends, like we just get along. I think it's because I was accepted and just was able to be myself when most of my life in other realms I was code switching. When I'm with my gay friends, I never have to be someone else. What a truly and special feeling of belonging that is when you can be your most authentic self. So no wonder when it came time to move from Hawaii, when I left Hawaii back in 1999, which actually is an anniversary for me. I have all these tangential stories that I want you to know about me. But in 1999, I left Hawaii and I chose San Francisco. I chose San Francisco because San Francisco's always been known as a place where you can be yourself. At the time I moved for work, I moved to express myself in a different way, my own identity without any of my past. And I still live in San Francisco 25 years later and live in a historically gay neighborhood, the Castro district. I've lived here for 25 years and it absolutely feels like home. I love raising my family here in the Castro. It's absolutely like a village. We have friends and family that are straight, that are gay. My son has, friends that he's always known that have parents like two moms and two dads, and he doesn't think anything differently of it. He knows that some men love other men, some women love other women, and everything in between. And it's just natural for him. And I love that for my son. He doesn't know anything differently. So, as we celebrate Pride here in the United States in June, the cosmos also celebrates with the nuances and the multitude of expressions and existences. It's beautiful the ways that Mother Nature expresses and shares this Gemini energy and shifting into Cancer, a true rainbow of millions of hues and tones culminating all together. Now, the sky reflects this in June with no massive planetary changes or stormy eclipse seasons. June opens up with Gemini's ruler Mercury coming back home to their domicile of Gemini for a few short weeks, and then closes up June with Saturn stationing retrograde, which, by the way, I'm not considering this as a massive shift compared to what we've all been through with this first half of the year. Now, as we move into June, the highlight of the cosmos is our June solstice that happens on June 21st. This is summer for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere and winter for our friends in the South. It is indeed significant for us all because the sun reaches its northernmost apex in its annual north-south migration, meaning that if you wake up to see the sunrise on the morning of the solstice, it's going to rise at the farthest northern point of that horizon. And that northernmost point on the horizon is 23 degrees north of the equator, aptly called the Tropic of Cancer, which just so happens to be where Hawaii lies on that Tropic of Cancer. And now, as the sun greets this point, we welcome our cardinal season, the Cancer season, and our June solstice. The Cancer solstice recognizes a full blooming, and this year the solstice is a day before the full flower moon. Oh my gosh, a true blossoming. So make sure you mark this day and celebrate and spend this day considering all that you have become. Celebrate the fullness of your flowering petals and thank your thorns that have allowed you to grow strong. The busy bees of the cosmos this June are now those inner planets. So let's take a look at the highlights of these inner planets. Now, Mercury, our planet of communications, of understanding, our messenger, our jester, is hyper fast right now, moving at about 2.5 degrees a day. That is super, super fast, buzzing through both Gemini and Cancer all in 1 month, catching up with both the Sun and Venus and creating this beautiful Gemini stellium right around, starting around the new moon and peaking right around June 15th. And so while the Sun, while we have this giant Gemini stellium, we'll have Jupiter, we'll have Mercury, we'll have Venus and the Sun, and right around the new moon, we'll have the moon. We're gonna have like this Gemini party, right? So make sure you are sharing words and thoughts of appreciation and adoration and really sharing your wisdom. That's why that's why Asha and I are doing Roar right now, because we are building up on this cross pollination where we have too much to lose to silence ourselves. So I want you to really think about this Mercury, that you have to be the messenger. What is it that you are willing to stand up on that hill and share? What is so valuable that you have to speak your truth, that it's too much to lose if you don't speak up your truth? So allow this time to really spark and energize your throat chakra. That yes, speaking up is scary. That will not go away. But what I want you that motivates you is the value of your message that is too valuable to be lost by your silence. Okay. Now, Venus, the next inner planet, is also moving at top speed, meeting up with the Sun on June 4th for a very rare cazimi. Venus is one of those planets that its orbit around the Sun is very similar to Earth. Venus being in retrograde is the rarest of them all. So when Venus also meets up with the Sun, this is one of those cazimis that is also very, very rare. Many cultures notice that Venus has this rare meetup with the Sun. And, in like Mesoamerica, Venus was thought of as the warrior planet, and they would track Venus's conjunction with the Sun, because when Venus conjoins the Sun, Venus changes from a morning star to an evening star. And so I'm really watching that this happens on June 4th when Venus meets up with the Sun. And this changes where you won't be able to see Venus because she's in the eye of the Sun. But when Venus starts to move away from the Sun, she's going to emerge as that beautiful evening star. So by the time the end of June, early July, you'll start to see Venus right after the sun sets. And this is going to be so beautiful. And just, if you've been really struggling with all the Venusian things while she's been a morning star, like if you've been struggling with money or seeing your value or seeing your worth or attraction and connection, things are going to change after this June 4th. Now, after June 4th, Venus is still going to cause a little bit of friction. And we do need friction, because friction and challenge really is the energy that fuels us, because she will be squaring off with both Saturn on June 8th and then with Neptune on June 16th, as she's in Gemini, and both Saturn and Neptune in the mutable signs of Pisces. These little square offs are just going to, create some boundaries. And then Venus squaring off with the Neptune maybe might cause a little bit of confusion, but the inspiration and the appreciation that is going to come from the slight little frictions are just going to be so so fruitful. Okay. And so she's going to do this on June 8th and then June 16th. And she's going to then splash into Cancer a day before Mercury also splashes into Cancer. So at this time, Venus, you can think about in the sky, Venus and Mercury are moving really close together. They're going to be splashing into Cancer on June 16th. All of this is happening super close to the sun. So we won't really be able to see it from here on Earth. So remember that at this time with Venus and squaring off with Saturn and Neptune, even though there's going to be a little bit of friction, remember that you attract more with honey than with vinegar. Now, little fun fact, did you know that the closer a planet is to the sun, the faster it moves in the sky? So definitely Venus, Mercury, all moving really, really, really quickly right now. Now, the last of the inner planets that we're looking at is, well, the last of the inner planets is Mars. And Mars is running on average speed right now, and it's about to downshift in June into Taurus on June 8th. Now, Mars doesn't especially like being in Taurus. It's not exactly happy in Taurus, as this energy is not nearly as quick as Mars would like to be. However, the grounded strength and integrity of Taurus is what we can all use to slow down and savor some sunshine and warmth. Now, if you have Mars and Taurus natively, like I do, don't despair. You may not be the quickest to take action, but let me tell you, you're steadfast and you won't give up. Now, I love all of this energy for all of us, and the inner planets are going to be squaring and trining and doing all kinds of things. And let's just go with the flow. Now, June isn't all love and joy. Of course, we do have a couple of tender spots to consider. Mars squares off with Pluto retrograde that week of June 9th, peaking on June 11th. So while we come to that second week of June, I want you to be patient and compassionate. Do not be so fixed in your ways. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning, our bookends, we end June with Saturn coming to a standstill that final week of June before it comes to a complete stop on June 29th to hit reverse on that Pisces of 19 degrees spot for his annual 4.5 month retrograde cycle. Now, you'll feel this kind of Saturn coming to a stop the most with the days leading up to June 29th. So this will be another time to just kind of mark off in your calendar, take some time off, set your boundaries, protect your energy. And then as we head into July, we're going to also have Neptune that starts to shift gears. So by the time we head to that shift between June and July is where things will start to kind of feel like, are we pushing? Are we going? Are we confused? Are we not? Are we clear? So just make a little note of that. Now, all in all, June is a great month for you to take a breather, open yourself up to possibility, lift yourself out of limiting self beliefs of duality into multiplicity, and love up on yourself with a rainbow dose of self care and self love so that you can speak up for your truth, so that you can share your wisdom, and that you can empower your voice and call in your people and your opportunities. So, my friends, really quick June highlights. Mercury goes into Gemini on June 3rd. We have our new moon, a beautiful new moon on Gemini 16th. I will have an upcoming episode just on the new moon in Gemini and how you can start a new cycle of empowering your voice. We have Mars entering Taurus on June 8th. Venus enters Cancer on June 16th. Mercury enters Cancer on June 17th. We have our beautiful solstice when the sun enters Cancer on June 20th, followed by the full moon, the flower moon in Capricorn on June 21st. And then we close out June with the Saturn station retrograde on June 29th. All right, my friends, thank you for listening this far. Thank you for listening to my opinions and my rants on how to harness your voice and how we're always going to piss somebody off. But you know what? Shout out from the top of the roofs. Know what you are here to say and what you are here to do. All right, my friends, until soon. Bye for now. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.